So welcome to Cooking Fun with Joanna. I am your host, Joanna Hodorowska with Nutrition in Motion. And every other week I plan a cooking class so that we can cook something healthy, nutritious, anti-inflammatory, and make it a fun experience, because the more we can actually make our own foods, the healthier we can be. So today we are making creamy chicken marsala with prosciutto. Somehow I forgot the prosciutto, so I'm going to use bacon. If you don't want to use the spinach, because that's what we're going to do as a side of spinach, then you can also use red chard or collard greens or kale. So there's always options for everything that we do. But this is going to be creamy chicken marsala. And you're going to need chicken cutlets. I'm also going to show you how to make chicken cutlets in case you didn't find cutlets and you want to cut them yourself. So I am going to demonstrate that. Then there's pepper, salt, a quarter cup of you can use whole wheat flour, but I'm going to be using the garbanzo bean flour. I don't know if you can read that.
We actually have almond flour.
So that way you can dredge without having the inflammatory effect of the wheat. Or if you're like Gina and me, we have the Polish flour, so it's from Europe, so it may not have that inflammatory response. You could use almond flour too. I just haven't. I don't use it typically.
Well, we were going to use almond flour.
We're not going to use almond flour.
Okay, then you want the Polish flour.
No, you're gonna use either the Polish wheat flour or the garbanzo bean flour. You could use the almond flour if you didn't have either of those two, so that you can dredge the chicken in. Got it? Then we're gonna have olive oil, the 2 ounces of prosciutto, 8 ounces of crimini mushrooms, which are the baby portobellas. So I've got a whole big box. I'm not gonna use the whole thing, but it's probably gonna be 8 or 10 of these for this recipe. Then it's going to be a quarter cup of minced shallots. So we'll show you how to do that. We're going to have 2 cloves of garlic, some thyme, some chicken broth, or actually I have vegetable broth. And then I am going to use heavy cream because I found heavy cream, but I found also something for those dairy-free people that now still makes a heavy whipping cream. I don't know how it works in cooking. So I don't know if I'll experiment today or not. I will keep you posted. You'll have to keep watching to find out. And then we're going to do Marsala wine and some parsley for garnish. Now, Marsala wine, I forgot to pick that up too, but it's kind of a sweeter wine. So you can use port. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some tawny port, but I'm also going to use a little bit of my Sangria, so that I still have that wine flavor in there. And it's really just for the wine flavor because the alcohol is going to evaporate out of it. Excuse me. We're going to do the spinach a little bit later, but we're going to go ahead and cut all the shallots. And I'm probably going to cut 2 shallots because I think shallots will make a really great flavor. So more, in my opinion, is always better. So I'm going to take that shallot. I'm going to scoot you guys down here onto my, so that you can see what I'm doing.
Sorry, I cheated again.
You cheated again and chopped everything early?
Yes.
But you know, that's the whole idea. You can chop early. I just happen to usually be busy, and I want to show everybody how to cut while we're actually in the process of doing this. So you're going to take your big, the big butcher knife, like I have, and hopefully you can use it astutely, but you're going to peel this outside layer of the shallot. And then you're going to keep that tail on it. And if you can see the little layer of skin, you want to make sure that that little layer is taken off, because otherwise it makes for very slippery cutting. So what you'll want to do, and I'm actually going to do this probably backwards of what I normally do, but you're going to cut it across, and then you're going to cut it in sections, and make sure that you're holding it so that the things don't slip off. And then you're gonna just dice it into small, teeny pieces. So they're gonna be about a quarter inch, no, not even a quarter inch, just like a millimeter or 2 millimeters at the most wide. And you just eyeball it and see how it works. But then when you get close to the end, just dig your fingernails into it and
Yeah, I actually cheated with chopping too. I have my little handy dandy chopper.
wow, that if you have the handy dandy chopper, that is a great option. I, on the other hand, do not have one of those handy dandy choppers. So, but I'm going to turn on the pan, and if you can see, I have the gas stove. I'm putting it onto this medium. It's kind of medium low heat, and that'll be enough to heat up that pan. So I'm going to let that heat up for a minute before I add the olive oil and a little bit of butter. So then I can continue chopping up my shallots, because I have a second one. We're going to take off that one layer. So the one thing that's kind of cool, I just got to talk about this this silk creamer, is most of the time I've tried these non-dairy things. They have so many additives. They're kind of gross. But I haven't found just a plain dairy-free heavy cream kind of consistency item. And this one is just filtered water, coconut oil, sunflower oil, fava bean protein, which I thought was kind of interesting. A little bit of guar gum, and it says natural flavor, so I don't know what that actually means. Sometimes that's concerning to me when it says natural flavor, because if they don't identify what it is, what flavor are they adding? But in this case, I'm not going to worry about it, but it's definitely going to be an interesting thing that when I try it. And I'm going to try to sharpen the end of my knife here, because I'm having a hard time cutting the end of the shallot with the top of the knife. Much better. See how things work better when you have a knife sharpener. I sharpened the rest of the knife earlier today, and I didn't do the end, so I was having a hard time cutting those strips. But you can go ahead and put your olive oil and maybe even a touch of ghee or a little bit of butter into that pan. And if you're cooking for just one person like me, this is probably enough shallots, because I'm not going to be using as much of the I'm not going to be making as much, because I'm only making it for one person, which means I'm making really for 3 or 4, so that I can have leftovers. And I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that olive oil into the pan. I don't think you can see that I poured it into the pan. There it is. There's my pan. And I'm going to make sure that my oil is, you're putting about 2 tablespoons into that pan. So you're going to put the shallots in. And now we're going to start chopping up the garlic and the mushrooms.
Are you slicing the mushrooms or chopping them up?
We're going to slice them.
Okay.
So I'll show you how we're slicing them. The way that I slice them anyway. So I cut the button off so it's flat, and then because this is a big one, I will actually just cut it in half and then cut it into slices. And like I said, these are really just ginormous mushrooms. And then I'm going to use my wooden spoon to kind of move everything around in here. And then I'm going to just start dropping the mushrooms in there, because we can always add the garlic later. Otherwise, sometimes if I add it too early, they just get burned. But I think these mushrooms that I bought are just enormous.
Yeah.
So I
Those
have
will
to
be-
cut them in
I-
half,
actually-
otherwise they're gonna be just too big. But you're cutting them into like 1/4 inch pieces. You don't want them really big
I
or
got 'em
really thick. And if you think that this is too big, you can also, cut it into quarters if that's better. But at the rate that I'm going, I think I said originally that I would use 8 of them. I think I'm gonna use maybe 4 or 5 because these are just huge. So they're a lot bigger. And most of the time you're supposed to you're supposed to wash your vegetables. And I don't know if you can see, but I have, a couple pieces of dirt. But I'm one of those purists that, you know what, the mushrooms offer some fungi and the dirt will help boost my immune system and help my microbiome grow properly. So I am not washing them. I'm just doing them as is and leaving the dirt in place.
And you're not supposed to anyway, because it makes them soggy and they don't brown.
Right. So you basically want the whole plate covered with mushrooms. And right now is that 3 mushrooms or 4? How many have I done?
I think 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So this is my 4th one. But again, if you have smaller mushrooms, then you'll need more. But generally speaking, you want that whole plate to be covered because you want those mushrooms to start letting go of their juice. And then we're gonna kind of let them brown and reduce before we add other things into it. So that's gonna just take a while. So this is how many mushrooms I have, and this is a 12-inch skillet. So keep in mind, if you're gonna have more to serve, you're gonna want more mushrooms. But that's about all I can fit into there. Now we're going to cut
Garlic.
the garlic. Right, thank you. How did you know that's what I was gonna say? I think you've been doing this cooking class with me and I'm not gonna say for too long, but you've been doing it with me, so you know what I'm gonna say.
Pretty much. I mean, well, my garlic's already chopped, so I'm gonna add mine.
All right, so you can go ahead and add it. I'm gonna show everybody how to do this. Even though I have that thing that's supposed to remove the garlic skin, I find that it's not that effective. So, in my opinion, don't waste your time on buying gadgets that peel your onion or your garlic because they don't really work. Just suffer through it. Cut the end off. Try not to cut it all the way through and then peel it off. And a lot of times that's what works. And sometimes you just have to use your fingers. And then it peels off a little bit easier. There you go. So now we're gonna dice this and mince the garlic. So same thing, you're gonna cut it in half with your big knife. And you might be better off putting it on the flat side down and then cutting that into thirds and then mincing it. If you want to use a garlic press, that's also an option. So then you don't have to even deal with all the stuff. And if you want to be like Steve and Gina, then you use your little food chopper and it does it for you, right?
Well, at least we know what to get you for Christmas this year.
Yeah, no, you know what? A friend of mine actually got me something like that, and I never used it. There's something about cutting and chopping the garlic that I like. I can't explain it. I just know that's maybe it's because that's how I grew up, but I used to have one of those little mini choppers, and when I moved here from Chicago 18 years ago, it didn't come with me.
Actually, I like it for the onions. This way you don't tear up.
That's true. And I do like that with the onions. I put it through the food processor. That I have to say is like a godsend. So now what we're gonna do, I am gonna use this. I found these little chicken breasts that are already strips. So I can use that instead of cutlets, because I couldn't find cutlets. You would think that cutlets were easy to find, but they're not. But if you wanna make your own cutlet, because what we're gonna do is we're just gonna dredge the cutlet. So you're gonna take a piece of chicken breast and you're gonna make your own cutlet. So you're gonna lay it on its side and it should be kind of firm, and just hold it. And if you have a really sharp knife, this will be easy. So you're gonna actually cut it into, slice it down so that you have, a cutlet. So there's my one strip. And usually a breast you can get probably 1, 2, and I'm gonna call this a half, because this one isn't really it's not gonna work very well, and it's gonna be kind of thick. And then I'm gonna have this extra something on the side, but that way I can still use this also, the extra side. But you're gonna put a little bit of that flour, either the, I'm gonna use the garbanzo bean flour. But you're going to put it into it, put some into a bowl, and then lay these strips into it, and we're gonna cover them up with this flour. And I'm gonna do 2 of these breasts, because that was actually easier than I thought. And this one, as you can see, it looks like it's probably gonna be 2 slices. If I can get this to stay somewhat straight. And that one's gonna be a little thick, so I'm gonna shave off a little bit of this top one. This is the beauty of cooking, right? You play
Yes,
with
it
your
is.
food. So here I'm gonna try to cut this one. And when your knife is sharp, then you can actually do this fairly easily. But if the recipe calls for cutlets and you didn't find cutlets, then you can cut your own cutlets. And this one has also a little bit of a too thick of a part, so I'm gonna chop that off. And I think that will do it. So I'm making 2 breasts, and I'm gonna go ahead and dredge these with the flour. And I think this recipe is not gonna take that long. So we might be done in 45 minutes. I think this is the part that takes the longest. But go ahead and kind of cover as much as you can. Don't worry that every single corner of your chicken is covered, but just give it a little bit of that light basting with that flour. It'll give it a nice crispiness to it, especially as we get it cooking. All right. So that's what mine looks like. It's kind of well covered, and that's what you want it to look like. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, my mushrooms totally kind of. I'll show you what my mushrooms did. They totally and I lost it while I was stirring it. So now what you're gonna do with these mushrooms is you're gonna move them to the side if it happens to look like mine. You're gonna move them to the side and throw the chicken in. And if you have a nonstick pan like mine, hopefully it'll stay nonstick. You're gonna do the best you can to put the chicken in here. When you cut it, it's amazing. You take 2 chicken breasts and cut them into these thin cutlets.
Mhm.
Then it takes up the whole space on the pan. And I really have to like make room for the last little piece. I just realized we never put the prosciutto in here.
Oh,
Oops.
Like I said, I'm using bacon because I still have my pan here. What I'm gonna do is, since we're gonna use the other pan for the spinach, I'm gonna go ahead and heat that one up. And again, I'm putting this on medium heat. And don't do what I just did, which is I put flour all over my shirt.
dress you up, can't take you out.
I got, it's like, go wash your hands. All right. Let me go do that while
Silence. 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 Silence.
This is the real cooking show, right? So we make mistakes and this is what happens.
What?
The prosciutto is going to be chopped up. So if you've got the prosciutto, then you're going to chop that up. I'm still going to use the same pan, the same cutting board and the knife that I did because chicken, prosciutto, bacon, it's all about the same. So you're going to put that into that other pan that you just heated up. And that was 1 slice. So I'm just going to use 2 slices of bacon. And mine's an apple cured, no nitrates. It's a pretty natural bacon. Because I forgot about the prosciutto. And it's always more fun to find substitutions. At least I'll just keep telling myself that. So you can get rid of that plate with all the flour in it. We don't need that anymore. We're going to put some salt and pepper on this chicken. And we're also going to put the thyme onto the chicken. So you should start seeing that the chicken is starting to brown, which is what you want. And I have one piece that never made it to the pan, so it's not browning at all. The thyme. So you're putting in a 1 teaspoon of thyme. And because I'm so good at measuring, I'm just going to sprinkle it on and make sure that it's covered on everything pretty decently. And I'm going to be liberal with mine because I like thyme. I like that spice. And if you feel like you need to add a little bit more of the of oil onto that pan so that it kind of browns, and then you're more than welcome to do that as well. So with the pancetta or the bacon or the prosciutto or the bacon that you're using, you're not going to be necessarily browning it like you normally would with bacon. You want it to add some flavor, and you can actually you don't necessarily want it completely brown. Does that make sense? And then we're going to add the broth. We're going to flip the chicken, and then we're going to add some of actually, we're going to cook the chicken on the other side, remove it, put in the broth and the cream and the wine, reduce it, and then put the chicken back in at the end. Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
while we're doing that, then we're gonna make the spinach in the other pan. Got it?
I guess.
So I'm gonna get my trusty little tongs and I'm going to flip my chicken because it looks like it's cooking on the one side. And one of the things that you can also do is move some of the pieces from the edge to the center so that they have a chance to cook. How's yours coming along?
Good, good.
Now it's starting to smell good, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you leave your house and come back in, then you'll really notice it. But I'm not suggesting you leave. It might not be such a good idea. But we're gonna let this cook for another 2-3 minutes. And then I want you to check on your bacon or your pancetta or your prosciutto, because you want to stir it just so that it's just enough cooked without it being completely brown. How's yours looking?
Good.
This is what mine looks like. It's just getting brown. So I'm going to actually pour that, scrape that that prosciutto and put it on top of the chicken. And I'm going to leave some of that prosciutto fat in there because I'm just going to throw the spinach or the chard into it. And then I won't have to use more. Got it? Follow me.
Yep.
So now I'm going to get rid of this cutting board because that's not the chicken. I luckily have another knife that I'm going to chop up the chard with, or the spinach. So what you're going to do is, you're really not going to do anything with that except for chop up the spinach. I'm going to use a leaf of chard as well, because I want some extra oomph. That's what chard looks like. And with chard, you want to chop this stem off. So I'm going to do that with the two of these. I'm going to just chop that stem off. And then I'm going to cut it in half, cut it in quarters. Do the same thing with the other piece. This is why you need sharp knives. And then you're going to kind of put that all together. And a lot of times I'll just cut it in half so that I can bunch it. And then you're going to just spread it. And then you're going to take that and put that into that pan that has the bacon. Just sizzle because of the wetness of the spinach or the chard. You're going to do the same with the spinach. Bunch it all together. Chop it all up. And the beauty of this stuff is that you don't have to be perfect. So, not perfect. We're going to throw that in. I have one more. Then you want to put a little bit of salt and pepper in there. You want to put a little bit of cardamom in there. I mean, not cardamom, cardamom or coriander. No, you're gonna put cardamom into it. So you're gonna sprinkle a little bit of the cardamom on there.
Onto the spinach. The cardamom goes onto the spinach.
Coriander, right, cardamom goes on the spinach. You're gonna take a little slice off of your lemon, and you're gonna put that lemon zest into that spinach. So you're going to cut it in half, and then make teeny tiny little strips, and then put that zest into that spinach and chard. Refrigerator or
No, not lemon juice, lemon.
you should be hearing it sizzling a little bit. So put a handful of raisins into it. Handful of raisins, and then we're gonna put a little bit of broth into that as well. And then we're gonna fish out the chicken and put all the other stuff into it. So we're gonna put a
Now
little bit of raisins into there. Just
You're
to
putting
give it
lemon
a-
zest in the spinach? Joanna,
I'm sorry, what?
you're putting lemon zest in the spinach?
Putting lemon zest into the spinach and a little bit of broth. And you're just gonna mix it around. And actually, you know, I probably did this one too soon, but I'm just gonna keep that on a low heat and let some of that just kind of simmer down and cook. But we're gonna take the chicken out. Now we're gonna add the Marsala wine. So it's a half a cup. Half
What's
a cup
that?
of heavy cream, half a cup of broth, and half a cup of Marsala wine. So that's a lot of liquid. We just have to introduce here. So get your measuring spoon out. I might only do a third of a cup because it doesn't seem like I have that much, but I'm gonna do a third cup of the broth. And what you're gonna do is kind of, now that we browned that chicken, this is all going to kind of soak up those browned clippings. And then that's a little bit of the tawny, a little bit of the sangria. Put that in there. And then a little bit of the whipping cream.
And where's the lemon juice go?
That goes in the spinach.
Okay. One more spinach. Put it up there.
Just gonna put a teaspoon of the lemon juice into the spinach. So while it's still kind of on, that'll just give it a little bit of a zing. The spinach kind of cooks so quickly that all right. So now make sure that all of this is mixing together. Kind of scrape off anything that's off the bottom. And just gonna let this reduce for probably five minutes. Maybe less, maybe more. It smells really good.
Yeah, it does.
Well, port and sherry and those kinds of things always go well with mushrooms. So that part I really like. And because I have all this extra chicken, I'm gonna try a piece. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good just the way it is. And then while we're waiting for this to reduce a little bit, this is where we get to chop up some parsley so that we have it for the garnish. Parsley is nice and anti-inflammatory. And most of the time people throw it away, especially when it's on a serving platter. But it's something that really is highly anti-inflammatory. It's got a lot of phytonutrients in it, which is why it's so green. And those phytonutrients will actually help to reverse those free radicals that are created from stress. It'll help your increase the amount of B vitamins in the body. And the chlorophyll that's in the parsley will also be helpful in detoxifying the liver. So lots of reasons to have parsley. And it's anti-inflammatory. Boy,
Did you put the parsley in now, or is that for after?
No, that's more for garnish. We're going to put that at the end.
Okay.
So this should be, as you can see, mine is starting to reduce a little bit.
Yes, here's mine.
So I'm going to let it reduce for another minute. And I think my spinach is probably, I never turned it on enough. We're going to give it another minute or two because I want this a little bit thicker. And then we're going to put the chicken back in. So while we're waiting for that, then we can go ahead and get a plate, right? We want to eat whatever we're making. That's the part. And then next month, we're already in March, right? So I think it's March 5th.
Yeah, something like that.
We're gonna make the miso. We're gonna make the tuna steaks with a miso glaze, and we're also gonna have a ginger miso glazed broccoli. So it's gonna be quite the combo. It's gonna be so stinking good. And it has olives in it, and it has the miso, shallots. Can't remember what else, but it's I made it already with my sister. And then we might actually have I think we'll just make it with the broccoli. Because the other option is to do it with the wild rice and chestnuts. And then and instead of and then add cauliflower into the chestnuts. So that's another option too.
All right, quick question.
Yes.
What are we doing with the raisins?
That's going in your spinach.
Okay. Do I put them in now, or?
Put them in now. I'm just letting mine reduce and get rid of some of that excess liquid, so it's hot. And then now that mine is looking like it's reduced quite nicely. This is where you'll put the chicken now back in. And probably be careful, placing it in as opposed to dropping it in and scraping it all just off the plate. You just want it to kind of warm up again. And that's kind of what it looks like. And then if you want to sprinkle the parsley on this now, you can. But I kind of want to get some of the sauce I want to get everything kind of immersed in the sauce, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do that first. And then I'm going to put the parsley in. I'm going to put the parsley on top. So I'm going to put some of it into the whole dish. Then I'm going to turn off my spinach. And that looks pretty darn tasty. And it smells really, really good.
It does smell good.
And if it smells good, it has to taste good, right?
Yep,
Yep.
Is that how it works?
that's what they say.
Who are they?
Anybody.
No, we have a they, but who are they?
Chefs.
The chefs, okay. So you can go ahead and turn the chicken off. And what I would suggest is make more spinach next time, because otherwise you only have like a thimbleful. But there's my spinach. And then I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take a strip of my chicken. It might actually look nice for a change, but then I need a spoon to kind of get the rest of the juices and the mushrooms onto it. Make a sense?
Yeah, you can say that.
And then you can take a little bit more parsley and kind of throw that on there. So then it looks like this. How does yours look?
Hold on.
Hold on. I don't want to hold on anymore. I want to see what yours looks like. I'm going to see. I wish I could put these. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I could pin both of us. There, now we have them side by side. So how does it looks awesome. All right, so now we get to do the taste test. All that just for dinner, right? And look at that, it's 6:15, and we started at 25 of. So this one's pretty easy. It's 45 minutes, and it's pretty darn tasty.
Yes, it is.
Yeah? Did you
Yep.
try it already?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Good.
I haven't tried it yet, so.
Your mother just dropped her
I
phone.
know.
I'm gonna see if I can try to take a picture of me actually sampling.
Eating it.
Yeah, why not, right? Because this is what it's all about. So I'm gonna take a little bit of that spinach with the chicken, and now I'm going to try it again.
Andy.
Mm. Oh, that is good. I have to say that is really, really good.
Wow. Spinach really came out good.
Yeah, and adding that lemon really gives it some zing, and that totally complements the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely making this again. It's not that hard.
No, it isn't.
It's actually very simple. So let us know how yours turns out when you make it at home. And that way we can tell more people, and you can join us next time when we make the salmon. No, we're not making salmon. We're making tuna steaks with a miso, it's a miso glaze, and then a miso broccoli. So that'll be on February 5th. Look for us again on Cooking Fun with Joanna, and hopefully you had fun today, because I know I did. And this is really, really good.
Yes, it is.
So thank you for joining us. Enjoy. Bon appetit.
See you later.